I learned the truth about why you need to aim train after only 28 days of doing it, and today I'm going to share that with you. This vital understanding of first-person shooters is something that I learned over a 28-day period, so I need to give you a little bit of context from those days. And for funsies, the other half of the screen that you are seeing right now is my 28th day of doing the benchmarks I'll discuss in a minute. Keep in mind, these will likely be fast-forwarded or cut up just a little bit because the time it takes to do the benchmarks is probably longer than this video. Anyways, originally, I was very against the idea of aim training, and this was caused by a creator whose content I was consuming a lot of at the time. That creator, like many others, said that it was pointless to shoot at balloons because how does shooting at balloons translate to helping you shoot in Overwatch? But as I've shared this content on the internet, there has been a consistent pain point from the audience that I am serving. That pain point was my aim. Then a guy named Zolron reached out to me on social media and offered to help me. This was a very refreshing response to the normal ones I got from my poor aim mechanics. This was just a dude who wanted to help. He didn't ask for any recognition of it, but you'll see later that this progress and everything that I've done because of these 28 days that I've started with is absolutely massive to my journey, so make sure you show some love for Zolron in the comments. I decided to start with Aim Labs as it's completely free, and I wasn't sure if I was going to commit to aim training long-term enough to invest in Kovacs. Zolron encouraged me to use Voltaic's Aim Lab benchmarks, and in my very first time doing it, I noticed a glaring problem. In just the first few exercises, I started to notice some serious discomfort in my wrist. Fortunately, I was recommended something that helped me immensely, which was Caster's Wrist Stretching and Posturing Guide. The reason he put this together was to help people who were experiencing the same problems I was, as well as a few others that I didn't even realize I was also going through. I started doing this stretching routine on the second day, and it was by far one of the biggest substantial improvements that I had throughout this journey, and it was on day 2. I was not only improving my scores and accuracy because I could go a little further, a little bit longer without having to take a break, but I was also experiencing a lot more comfort while doing this. Moving into the second week, and even at the end of the first, I was noticing that my peripherals were preventing me from actually dialing in my sensitivity well. I had an extended mouse pad that actually had my keyboard and mouse at the time both on it, which were the Logitech G915 for the keyboard and the Logitech G502 Lightspeed for the mouse. Because of the keyboard and the mouse both being on the same mouse pad, the mouse had very little remaining room to maneuver, which caused me to have a much higher sensitivity that wasn't working. While those stretches definitely helped with the wrist fatigue, the weight of the Logitech G502 was certainly not helping. By the end of those 18 benchmarks, I was usually still experiencing a mild amount of fatigue. At that point, with the help of the community, I started researching a new keyboard and mouse. Personally, I've wanted to move towards Corsair's peripherals and try them out for quite a while. Personally, I am a massive fan of a really good ecosystem in the tech world, and the Corsair Elgato one is no exception. So I decided to try out Corsair's Qatar Elite wireless mouse as well as the K70 60% wireless keyboard. This was my first mouse I've ever owned that was considered lightweight, and the 60% keyboard allowed for that mouse to have much more room to maneuver. Once I adjusted to those new peripherals, this was a net positive for me by a lot. I actually noticed that my diet was playing a huge factor into my ability to aim train. During that second week, I had a day where I had consumed a lot of excess sugar, salt, and fats, and this caused my aim to be incredibly unsteady and shaky, and my hands to be very sweaty and clammy. So I was very conscious of that moving throughout the rest of the week, and actually later in that week, I realized that I was good at operating under pressure when someone on my Twitch stream offered to gift me 5 subs if I just improved a little bit. And let's just say I literally got those 5 subs. Moving into week 3 now, I was noticing a serious problem with my posture in general. Fixing this I knew would require me to consult external resources, and by that I mean I watched a few YouTube videos on this exact topic. I started to notice my hand posture when I approached the mouse was constantly shifting from like a claw to a fingertip, which is where I ended up landing eventually, but it was constantly shifting depending on whether or not my arm, wrist, or elbow were starting to get fatigued. But keep in mind, like I said, I really wasn't experiencing those fatigues anymore, so there was some kind of a habit that was just built in from all of that discomfort I had been experiencing throughout my time of playing FPS games. After making one massive adjustment to the positioning of my chair versus my desk, which is fortunately a standing desk so it has a lot of room to move, this was essentially fixed. Like I said, I landed on a fingertip style grip and oddly enough ended up basically at the same sensitivity I started with on day 1. The lighter mouse combined with that new fingertip grip style has drastically increased my confidence in hitting the shots. But despite that higher confidence and the overall comfort of sitting at my desk was definitely a lot better, I still wasn't improving. Up to this point, I had been approaching every single exercise essentially the same way. For instance, I was focused just as much on my trigger control in the switching and tracking exercises as much as I was in the clicking ones. That, combined with the basic lack of understanding of the difference between each general category, was holding me back substantially. I didn't even realize this until Zolron, that guy I mentioned earlier who got me into this thing in the first place, came in clutch again by reviewing a recent benchmark I had done and giving me some thoughts. I'll be honest with you, he sent me small novels, so I ended up boiling it down to some simple concepts for each category of tracking, switching, and clicking that I could work on. For clicking, I needed to be more intentional with my clicks and be sure I was going to hit the target and move faster between them. For tracking, I needed to focus on when to tense for control and when to relax to make faster movements. And for switching, it was essentially a combination of those two things. What I told myself was I needed to focus on the flick, track, rhythm. As I did these things consistently, I started to notice that this dip I was on at this point started to drastically spike upward. Doing this set several new personal records and continued to push me through the ranks of the voltaic benchmarks. Now that we've set up all that context, here is the real answer as to the truth of why you need to aim train if you're going to be playing first-person shooters. Because it builds the fundamental pieces that you need to understand in order to control your mouse well when you translate that to in-game movements. Sure, the balloons aren't shaped like any of the heroes in Overwatch, but the movement styles that each of the heroes in Overwatch have are represented at least in one of those 18 benchmarks. In-game, my accuracy has actually increased on my main two heroes by about an additional 10% on average. It also taught me the importance of fully focusing on what it is that I am trying to improve rather than scores improving or, in Overwatch, your rank improving. Seriously, aim is one of the very few things that you can fully control in your arsenal, and I can promise you, regardless of what game you're playing, it is going to help you. Due to this, you can look to see a video from me once I hit the 90-day mark where I will share even more information very similar to this one about how this has helped. Until then, I'm going to continue to share what I am learning as I improve and work my way to the OWCS next year. For instance, in this video right here, I shared my experience playing Zarya after 100 hours and the specific simple tips that you can adopt if you're choosing to pick her up.